Welcome, one and all, to another edition of the Defo Show with Lubie. Without Defo, just Lubie here on the 5 Reasons Sports Network, brought to you by the great people at Water Cleanup of Florida. It has been an interesting time in the Lubitz/Reyes household, and Water Cleanup of Florida is saving the day. So that's one thing I have to say is everything that they've said here at Water Cleanup of Florida is true. We talk about it each and every day. 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, you can reach them 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, right? We talk about that all the time, and I believed it. Companies don't usually say that if they don't mean it, but I will say the fact that when it came to my home, that's exactly what happened. Gave me even more peace of mind. When it comes to issues at your house, we never want to deal with them, and whenever they pop up, it brings, at least to me, a major level of stress. But, like I've said, since we started being partners with Water Cleanup of Florida, it has given me peace of mind knowing they exist. Well, the fact that now I've actually reached out to them, they've gotten back to me in the blink of an eye. They already have started working on our home, have it scheduled to get in and out efficiently, quality. Again, when you have over 60 years of combined experience between Michael, Robert, and their team, plus with licensed contractors, the fact that you can trust them in your home to get the job done. That's not always the case. And you know what? Thank goodness for Water Cleanup of Florida. They've done it for me. They will do it for you. Again, reach them 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. 954-579-0356. 954-579-0356. Check them on the website, WCUFL.com. WCUFL. Watch them 5 Reasons or Lubie. You will get a free inspection during business hours. Also check them out on the socials, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, at Water Cleanup FL. Water Cleanup of Florida. We clean up your schmutz. It's been an interesting weekend here. Happy 4th of July, one and all. Look, the Marlins have won 5 in a row. They welcome the Angels, so that's cool. It was an interesting weekend, both good and bad. 4th of July yesterday was a little sad. Hank Goldberg passed. Hank Goldberg, a guy that was an icon when it came to South Florida radio. When it came to sports gambling, he was an icon. Like, he was one of the people that, when ESPN and the NFL were scared to talk gambling, he was a guy that they allowed to talk gambling in the 90s and 2000s and did it forever down here. A guy that was akin to Defo, and they were really cool, and they were good friends. And I know Defo always kept tabs with Hank, and Hank kept tabs with Defo. He was living his best life, as they say, in Vegas after doing a long stint down here, South Florida radio. He moved out to Vegas doing stuff with VSIN and just living the dream, quote unquote, the generous/gambler dream. And they found him in his home at age 82 yesterday. So our thoughts, prayers go out to his family, his friends, and the sports world at large, because he is an icon in both television and radio and just anything sports. A lot of it, he was one of the early founders and adopters. So we say goodbye to Hank Goldberg. I didn't know him definitely as well as Defo, but I know he was a fan of what we did, and we really appreciated his support. He was, it's funny, like, my first interaction with him was, I remember it was like a Passover, like when I was in college, and I was driving with my dad for some reason from Tampa. I don't know why we were in Alligator Alley, but we're in Alligator Alley for some reason. And we were driving down south, and Fiedler was the quarterback. And we didn't like Fiedler. And look, since then, we've had a lot of crap at quarterback, so you would actually be happy to have Jay Fiedler. But at the time, Fiedler had a propensity to find a way to lose games. Like, he would turn it over in the weirdest freaking ways. So we weren't the biggest fans. So it was on Passover. My dad called, and I never was a call-in to sports guy. That's what's so funny, that I do this for a living. Like, I always found it interesting that you want to get in so bad that, we appreciate our callers. Like, the guys that called forever, we always had great callers. Like, become friends. Andy and Eric and a lot of them have become friends of mine. But, like, I never did it myself. But, you know, let me go call and wait and have this guy. A lot of the time, they'd be negative. So it was like, why would I want to sit through that? So, but my dad was someone that would call regularly into these shows. So he called with me next to him, and it was Passover, and he went after Fiedler. And we're Jewish. So Hank, like, hangs up on my dad, and we're now listening on the radio, and he's like, what is wrong with these people? What are they, anti-Semites? Who's slamming Fiedler on Passover? It was like, I mean, we're Jewish. So that's weird. But that was one of my early interactions with Hank. But other than that, like, we actually had a good relationship. He was, from what we know, a big fan of our show, and we were a big fan of his. So rest in peace, Hank Goldberg, and hopefully you're catching some tickets up there in the Great Blue Yonder. It was an interesting weekend when it came to sports. You had the NBA free agency open with a bang Thursday. Over $1 billion in just like 5 or 6 contracts between Joker and Bradley Beal and John Morant and Zion Williamson. Darius Garland got a big deal. He hasn't even played a full season yet, health-wise, but he was an all-star last year. So you got a lot of big money going out. Kevin Durant doesn't want to be in Brooklyn anymore. Kyrie Irving supposedly is going to be out of Brooklyn. The Miami Heat are supposedly involved in like every move. They want either Donovan Mitchell from Utah, or Kevin Durant. Look, to me, the Heat were one shot away from the finals. The fact that they were able to keep the Oladipo signing, I think, is a lot bigger than people give it credit. Like, the dude played really well in the playoffs. His offensive game isn't there, but his defense was there. His rebounding was there. And he was able to, his athleticism was there. So, to me, he hasn't been healthy in like 2-3 years. This will be his first healthy offseason in like 3 years. That's when he can work on his offensive game. Remember, before he got hurt, he was an All-NBA player with the Indiana Pacers. Like, not an All-Star, like an All-NBA player. He was really good offensively and was great defensively. His issue was injuries, and he's still late 20s, early 30s, so he has plenty of time left if he can get healthy. Well, he looks healthy now. In the playoffs, he looked healthy. He was a big key for the Heat. If you give him a healthy offseason, what can he do? So, yeah, the Heat lost P.J. Tucker, but we've seen them fill that role with a Jay Crowder, a P.J. Tucker. Like, I don't see why they couldn't go and get a T.J. Warren or Jay Crowder again and fill that stretch 4, undersized power forward guy that can play 3-4, defend 1-4. And some small 5s. Like, I think they can fill that role. Getting Oladipo was big. Like, the dude can come off the bench and give you offensive punch. He can start if you need him to. I don't know what they're going to do in the trade market. Like, it's interesting because they love the whale, and a lot of Heat fans are disappointed they haven't made a move yet. But they were one shot away from a final spot, and Jimmy Butler is ascended to a different place. If they keep Hero, like, yeah, he wasn't great in the playoffs, but we found out he had an injury, so maybe that was there. You know, like, he was 6th man of the year, almost led the team in scoring, was borderline all-star. Bam Adebayo should have been an all-star and has been an all-star. One of the top 5 big men, probably in the NBA when you combine offense and defense. And Kyle Lowry, yes, I get it. People are disappointed. He didn't steal the show, but he had big moments in the playoffs. And Riley's called him out, and he's vowed that winning a title is all that matters. You would think he's going to get back in shape. To me, the Heat are in a good position. Like, if they don't sign anyone, I'm not disappointed. They don't trade for anyone, I'm not disappointed. However, when there's smoke with the Heat, there's fire. Like, the fact that they've made interesting moves, the fact that they haven't extended Tyler Hero, which they want to do, but the thing is, as we've seen with Devin Booker, like, once you extend a guy like that, you can't go then trade him. And every trade, they don't want to give up Bam, but they're almost certainly going to have to give up Tyler Hero. So if you extend Tyler Hero, then you can't trade him. So there's been murmurs of extending him. I think he's worth an extension. I think he, with Bam, with Butler, with an Oladipo and a Lowry, can contend in the East, let alone the NBA. But they're trying to get a Mitchell, and they're trying to get Kevin Durant. And I think both are valuable adventures. I think they're 2 guys that he probably could get. I think Durant, they'd have to give up so much to get Durant that, yeah, they'd be better than they are now, but by how much? If you have to give up Bam, Hero, Robinson, picks, if you have to give up all of that, yes, to still have a Lowry, to still have Butler and KD is amazing, but you're not that much better than you were. The idea is to get Durant and keep Bam, and I don't know if they can do that. But I think they can get Donovan Mitchell out of Utah and keep Bam. And then if you have Donovan Mitchell, who's 25 and has 3 years left on his deal, who can do almost everything, but his defense hasn't been great, but we've seen guys improve their defense here in Miami. You keep Bam. You have Butler. You probably don't have to get rid of Lowry to get a Mitchell. Like, you have a lot of depth, young depth, that I think your 7's going to take a step this year. I think we'll see Martin take another step, like we saw Vincent and Strus last year. Like, I know it's the offseason, and people are like, why are you talking basketball? But last week was a big deal. And the offseason has always been a big deal since 2010 for the Miami Heat. And I think this offseason is going to be interesting because it's so funny. Like, we're so down here used to our teams not winning that when they have a winning team, we want everything to change. The Heat don't have to change. The Heat have a team that, again, everyone was hurt, and they were still one shot away from going to the finals. They lose Tucker, but that's one spot. You bring back Oladipo. The Heat are in a position to compete for the Eastern Conference and the NBA title right now. And I think they're going to do something. So it's been busy in the NBA offseason already, and it just started like a week and a half ago. The NFL is a month away from preseason. We've heard a lot about the Miami Dolphins this weekend. More murmurs about Tua it was CBS Sports, I don't know, someone wrote an article saying, screw Tua, if Baker Mayfield's right, he's better. Maybe. But the problem is Baker Mayfield had talent. They had a pretty good offensive line. They had a lot of weapons. They had a really good defense. Stefanski was supposed to be a coach that was supposed to work with Mayfield, and he was a disaster last year. Like, to me, and then he got hurt, and look, he played through the injuries. But, like, to me, Mayfield got a shot and didn't show it. That's my problem with Tua. And it's not like, look, I was hard on Tannehill, but they gave Tannehill 7 years. And they gave him receivers, and they worked on the offensive line. And the defense got better. And he never improved. If everything was perfect, he could be pretty good. Like, Tua hasn't even had a chance. Like, he's had the worst offensive line in the NFL, something Tannehill only had, like, his first year. After that, he didn't have an offensive line like this. He's had no receivers. Every receiver that was out there was, of any talent, was hurt and had the drops. And the running backs, like, it was a bunch of dudes that were on practice squads and should have been on practice squads. So, to me, will Tua be great? I don't know. But he deserves a chance. Like, and this is the most talent he's had by far. It's the most talent he's had since Alabama. And it's the healthiest he's been since that year he came in as a freshman, and then the next year before he got hurt. That's the reality. So to me, I don't know if he's better than Baker Mayfield. But Mayfield got a shot. Mayfield, they kept giving him talent, and he kept getting worse. That hasn't been the case for Tua. All these people that want to slam the guy, like, he's not a runner. He's not Robert Griffin III. But he's not a statue either. He's not Dan Marino or Tom Brady. Like, the dude is athletic. He's undersized, true, but he's not 5'10". Like, he's like 6 foot, 6'1". Like, I've seen the guy. Like, he's not big, but he's not small. He's, like, in the middle, you know? So, let's see. Like, we're in such a world, in just a world at large, let alone sports, like, we can't just see. We have to, like, pick a stance. And I get it. Sports radio. Defo and the professor used to make fun of me because I would, like, waffle. I would play the fence. And I get it. You have to have an opinion. But sometimes there is no opinion to have. I think this is a big year for Tua. Yes. Duh. I think Tua will succeed. Why wouldn't he? Like, you give a guy, Jalen Waddle is your second or third receiver. Cedric Wilson Jr. is a guy that the Cowboys didn't want to lose. Like, Cowboys fans wanted. Cowboys, the higher-ups wanted. He's your third receiver. You know, you still have, I think they kept Williams, like, who has talent. He just has the drops. He's now your fourth guy. Tyreek Hill is legit. Like, Tyreek Hill is a top 3 receiver. Probably the most electric talent in the game of football right now. So you add him, you bring in real offensive linemen, not draft picks that you're hoping are good. You bring in an all-pro left tackle in Terron Armstead. You bring in a Pro Bowl caliber offensive guard, which I don't know if they've had that with Miami, and Connor Williams from Dallas, one of the better offensive lines for a long time in football. Like, these are things they haven't done. They go and get real running backs, guys that have started in this league and had success, not Ahmed and Gaskin. Like, Chase Edmonds isn't a headliner, but the dude was one of the league leaders in yards per carry, started in games, had big games for a team that was successful in Arizona. You have Mostert, who set a record for rushing in playoffs, a guy that was leading the league in yards per carry before he got hurt, a guy that is one of the faster guys. And then you go and bring in Michelle, a South Florida kid that has won 2 Super Bowls between the Patriots and the Rams. Like, he's not a high flyer, but he's a guy that's played big in big moments, you know? Like, they haven't had that. So these are things they haven't done. So to me, it just makes sense that the Dolphins would be better. Again, and we're in this, the Greek talked about it when I had the Greek on the last segment. You know, we're in the dead period of sports. So we're talking about NBA trades when no one gives a shit about the NBA, and we're talking about mythical things with football. To me, that's true. It's mythical. So, like, why get so passionate? Like, Dolphins Twitter's become this thing. I don't understand that. Like, every fan base has a whatever Twitter where they just yell about everything. They just fight within each other. They're fighting about Tua. It's like, who would you have wanted them to get? This draft wasn't great when it came to quarterbacks. Literally, the first quarterback didn't go to, like, the 20s. And it's a guy in Kenny Pickett that's not a starting NFL quarterback. Like, who would you want them to get? What free agent? Okay, so you have Tua. They made moves that fit what he does. So he doesn't throw the deep ball. Actually, in college, he threw the deep ball really well. And in the pros, when he's had time, because he never got time because he had a shitty offensive line, he threw the deep ball really well. So first of all, the one gripe against Tua would be the deep ball. He actually throws it real well. 2, fuck the deep ball. How often do they throw deep balls? This isn't the Raiders of the 70s and 80s. Like, mostly everything is within 20 yards. Get the ball in your athlete's hands, which the Dolphins have a lot now, and let them go make plays. So it's funny. I'm railing on people for talking about this stuff, and then I do 10 minutes on it. So that's what we do. I'm excited for not only football, for the Dolphins, and it's the first time. Look, if you're a Canes fan, it's the same thing with you. Like, the Canes are recruiting on a way they haven't recruited since early Coker. Like, I guess Shannon that 1 year. That first year was Shannon. They had the number 1 class, and they're not doing that. Like, Alabama, Georgia, Texas, A&M, with not the Ruiz money. Oh, we have a billionaire. No, they have like 7 billionaires. Like, those, they're not going to match those guys. But they should have a top 10 class, which is fucking insane. Like, they had 1 10-win season or 2 10-win seasons in the last 20 years. I think they've won maybe 1 bowl game in the last 20 years. I mean, they just now committed money that hasn't been seen. They don't have, their facilities are a joke. They don't have a stadium, and they're not gonna. I don't care what Ruiz says. So the fact that they're able to compete right now, even right now, with the big boys, they've gone toe-to-toe with Bama, they're toe-to-toe with Georgia, toe-to-toe with Clemson, when it comes to recruiting, is impressive. As someone who didn't think they could get Cristobal in here, as someone who was making fun of Cristobal for not having a staff into like February, the fact that he's put together one of the best staffs in the country, the fact that they've gone out and gotten a high-level 4-star quarterback, a 5-star offensive lineman, which is not easy to do. They've gotten 4-star receivers and defensive backs and tight ends. He's done a hell of a job. So to me, what will we see? I don't know. But we should be excited, and that's something we haven't had for a while. Outside of the Miami Heat, the Dolphins and the Canes and the Marlins and the Panthers have not given us a lot to be excited about because they've been So right now, the Marlins have won 5 in a row, and they had made a playoff spot a couple years ago. So, cool. The Panthers were the number 1 seed when it comes to the NHL overall. Yeah, they flamed out, almost lost to an old Capitals team, and got swept by the eventual runner-up in the Lightning. But at least it feels like the youth is growing. You have the Canes finally spending money, finally focusing on athletics, finally going and recruiting with the big boys. That's cool. I mean, as a Florida State fan, that makes me sad, but it's great for South Florida. And you have the Dolphins and the Heat. You always have. The Heat were, every time it feels like they're going away, Riley, Ellisberg, Nick Harrison, Mickey Harrison, Spoelstra, they don't mess around. They make sure that they're going to be right there. The Heat culture is a actual tangible thing, even though that usually would be intangible. But the Dolphins, look, the Dolphins were the banner franchise for South Florida sports because there wasn't South Florida sports, and they won too on top of that. And it's been down since look, everyone says it's been down since Marino. No, it's been down since before then. I love Marino. They never won with Marino, never. They went to 1 Super Bowl and I think 1 or 2 AFC Championship games. They didn't win. He gave them a chance at winning. He was fun, but they've been down since the early 80s. And for the first time since Marino in the early 90s, when they still were competing for AFC titles, they have enough talent right now to compete. Now, the AFC is insane. Outside of like 2 or 3 quarterbacks, every great quarterback is in the AFC. I get it. But when you have a great defense, when you actually put something in the offensive line, when you have a quarterback who's smart and doesn't get in your way, you have a chance to win. And it's the first time since I was in high school. Because in college, it was when they went and got when I was in college, when they went and got Wanstead and the Saban debacle happened. And ever since then, they've never been the same. For the first time in a long time, you have a coach that seems to get his players and the players like him, which you haven't had. Even when Flores was winning, it seemed like there was a war between Flores and his players. And this is not the 60s. Like, the players make not only more than the coaches, they make light years more than the coaches. Like, you can't be at odds with your players. And eventually, Flores is... no one missed him. Like, when Flores was fired, and it felt unceremoniously at the time because they were competing for the playoffs, the players didn't come out defending him. Like, every player now is falling in love with McDaniel. So that tells you what was going on with Flores. Was, yeah, they had some success, but we've seen those coaches in this day and age flame out really quickly, their message, because these players have the power. Like, you have to get on the players' level and understand them, because you can't rule them with an iron fist. They make 10 times the money you make. Like, if a coach makes $2 million, that's amazing, right? Well, there are players that are making $20 to $30 million a year, and they're not the highest paid in the league. So the Flores thing, it felt like, and that's why I wasn't shocked when he was fired, because he couldn't figure out the offense, and this is an offense-driven league at this point. So the Dolphins for the first time have a guy who's not a dunce at coach, and God rest his soul, Sperano felt like that, and Cam Cameron felt like that, and Saban was good, but was never great with the Dolphins. And, like, the list goes on and on and on with their Dave Wanstead. He was a nice guy, but he was a dunce. Like, they've had dunce after dunce. This dude is not only bright, but you feel it, right? Like, you don't just hear it from people. When Mike McDaniel talks, when you hear people talk of Mike McDaniel, his intelligence is what shines through, and he gets it. And that's the first thing we've had since Jimmy Johnson and Shula. So, to me, I'm excited. I think you should be excited. And I think football, for the first time in a while, will be exciting down here in South Florida. We will have Tony Segredo tomorrow, kicking it old school. Thank you to Texas Roadhouse and Catholic Health Services. We will talk a lot about South Florida sports. We do that a lot down here. We'll see what happens with the Heat. We'll see what happens with the NBA. Durant's just sort of looming out there, and it feels like in the next week or so, his move will happen. Then we'll see what happens with Donovan Mitchell. It feels like Bradley Beal and Lillard. These are names we've heard may be moved. I feel like they're probably not going to be moved. I do hope everyone had a happy 4th of July. I hope they had a safe 4th of July. Thank you again for finding us here on 5 Reasons Sports, on the 5 Reasons Sports Network. The Defo Show. No Defo. Defo is in Atlantic City this week, celebrating the big 7-1, the big birthday. You get just Lubie. Talked a lot about the Marlins. Look, they're on a 5-game win streak. Yay, Marlins. They welcome the Angels, Ohtani, Trout to town. Hey, at least Big Sandy's on the mound, our Cy Young front runner. So that's positive. The Canes had a huge weekend, and last week, actually, when it comes to recruiting. Plus, you have the Heat, our favorite, and rumors, KD still out there. Is Mitchell going to be moved? What's going on with other pieces as TJ Warren, another guy the Heat we're hopefully going to try and fill that 4 spot with. He's off the table. The Nets scoop him up. What will the Heat do? We will see. That will be a big topic of conversation heading forward. Plus, the Miami Dolphins camp opening up. You got the preseason next month. You got the regular season soon after. Finally, the dead of sports is opening up. Appreciate having you with us here. The Defo Show. No Defo, just Lubie. Check us out tomorrow in the morning, live, 7 to 9 on South Florida Live. Just look up on YouTube or Google South Florida Live. Look up The Defo Show with Lubie, Lubie, on both Google or YouTube. Please watch us, subscribe. Also check out our exclusive content, national information, national content on the Believe Network, BLEAV.com. Search After Hours. And, of course, our South Florida content right here. The Defo Show with Lubie on the 5 Reasons Sports Network.
Play the ponies in style at Champions, the outstanding simulcasting room at beautiful Hialeah Park. Yes, the grand old lady of thoroughbred racing has never been more vibrant, and you can wager on the races from the top tracks around the country while enjoying a cocktail at the Brass Rail Bar or any of the fine food served throughout the facility. If poker is your game, you're covered in style, and you can play all your favorite Vegas-style games, including blackjack, craps, and roulette, in Hialeah Park's sizzling hot casino. Get a player's card when you walk through the door for all kinds of generous amenities, including our favorite, free play, when you come out to the ultimate casino and entertainment destination, Hialeah Park.
These days, we're all looking for comfort anywhere we can find it. Thank goodness for Landlubbers Raw Bar and Grill in the Plantation, because they are making sure you are as comfortable as possible. First of all, they're not only open for delivery and pickup. All you have to do is go to landlubbersbarandgrill.com for both pickup and free delivery. You're going to have the best wings in the world. You're going to have a great burger. You're going to have their amazing soups. Again, Landlubbers, Raw Bar, and Grill. It's nice and easy. Just go to landlubbersbarandgrill.com for both your pickup and free delivery. Thank goodness for Landlubbers for making you always feel right at home.